friend. Blink.
Coming at you live from Studio One in the bell tower at Holy Flame Castle. Escalon Online. Daily recap. Pot.
Buckle up, everyone, because we are diving headfirst into Escalon Online today.
Oh, yeah.
You guys have been sending in some incredible logs from the big Spider Plague event, and, well, we're zeroing in on the grand finale, the showdown with the broodmother.
These large-scale events are just fascinating. They're really these glimpses into online gaming communities under pressure. You know, it's not just about slaying digital monsters. It's about the human dynamics that unfold when you throw hundreds of players into a high-stakes situation like that.
And from what we're seeing in these logs, the stakes get very high. We're talking swarms of giant spiders, near-death experiences, and enough in-game drama to put a soap opera to shame.
I mean, and you know me, I am always fascinated by the intersection of game mechanics and human behavior.
Absolutely. So, for you listening, imagine this. It's evening in Escalon Online, and our players are gathered outside what they believe to be the broodmother's lair. Tension is thicker than spider silk.
Yeah, and remember, this isn't just some random encounter either. This climax is the combination of weeks of battling these increasingly tougher spiders. It's a real slow burn of anticipation and dread.
They've been living this story, right? Strategizing, forming alliances, maybe even making a few enemies along the way. And now it all comes down to this.
Exactly, and it's fascinating to watch how players respond to that kind of pressure. You've got the veterans, cool under pressure, calling the shots. Then you've got, well, let's just say less experienced players like Teemo, who seem to thrive on a little chaos.
Oh, Teemo. We can't forget Teemo. He pops up in these logs like a whack-a-mole with a penchant for trouble.
Before we get to Teemo's antics, and trust me, they're worth the wait, though, let's talk about the challenges of coordinating an event of this scale. Because even in a virtual world, communication is key.
Easier said than done, right? Especially with the added pressure of lag, which, as you can imagine, features prominently in these logs.
Oh, absolutely. It's like, imagine trying to coordinate a 100-person dance routine when everyone's music is slightly offbeat. That's essentially what these players are up against.
And just like in a real battle, misinformation can spread faster than a spider bite. We see players talking over each other, giving conflicting orders, and generally adding to the sense of controlled chaos.
It really is remarkable, and it's a testament to the game designers that even with these limitations, a sense of strategy still emerges. Players naturally fall into roles. The tanks, the healers, the damage dealers, each trying to execute their part of the plan while battling lag and the occasional rogue Teemo.
Speaking of which, we see Teemo right off the bat asking if he can RP aggressively before the fight even starts. What does that even mean in this context?
Yeah, it's unclear. But it speaks to Teemo's chaotic energy. It's almost as if he sees the event as a stage for his own personal performance, blurring the lines between collaborative storytelling and, well, just plain troublemaking.
And the game masters are trying to wrangle this digital circus, spawning enemies, keeping things moving, and occasionally struggling to contain the unexpected.
It's like herding cats. Except the cats have magical weapons and a tendency to accidentally set each other on fire.
And speaking of fire, the players decide that the best way to flesh out the broodmother is good old-fashioned arson.
A classic.
So picture this. Dozens of players hurling flaming bundles of straw into this spider-infested cave, smoke billowing everywhere, players coughing and swearing. It's absolute mayhem.
Oh, I bet. As you might imagine, this tactic had mixed results. On the one hand, it did create a diversion. On the other hand, it added another layer of chaos to an already chaotic situation.
You can practically hear the frustration in the logs as players stumble around in the smoke, accusing each other of friendly fire, and desperately trying to remember their fire resistance potions.
It happens. Yet amidst this chaos, we see these glimmers of coordination, of players adapting to the situation and trying to salvage a strategy.
It's a testament to their dedication, wouldn't you say? I mean, I'd have logged out and gone for a nice, calming walk in the real world if I were them.
I hear that. Some players are already calling for a regroup, for clearer communication. But before they can get organized, a new threat emerges from the smoke-filled cave.
And it's not exactly the warm welcome wagon they were hoping for, is it?
Welcome back to the chaos.
Where we last left off, our brave Escalon Online players were bracing themselves for a showdown with the dreaded broodmother after turning her lair into a makeshift bonfire. What could possibly go wrong, right?
Well, as you can imagine, a lot can go wrong when you're dealing with limited visibility and jumpy players. Oh, and a healthy dose of lag.
Yeah, it's like trying to fight a monster in a crowded elevator during an earthquake. Except the monster can probably smell your fear.
And smell it, the monster did, because instead of the gargantuan broodmother, the players are met with a group of smaller spiders, an anticlimactic appetizer, if you will.
Talk about a letdown. You spent all this time preparing for the big bad boss. And then you get, well, spiderlings. Not exactly the stuff of legends.
Right. But this is where the players' reactions get really interesting. Some are relieved, of course, grateful for a brief reprieve from the chaos, but others, particularly those who have been around the Escalon block a few times, they smell a trap.
Like Mercer, right. He was convinced they hadn't actually faced the real broodmother yet. He kept saying something about a faint, whatever that means.
Mercer was right to be suspicious. Remember how we talked about the game designer's knack for building tension? This was a classic misdirection, a way to lull the players into a false sense of security before unleashing the real horror show.
And unleash it they did. The logs describe this gigantic figure emerging from the smoke, all 8 legs and countless eyes, dripping venom and fury. I'm getting chills just thinking about it.
It's a brilliant use of dramatic timing. The players are already on edge, disoriented from the smoke and previous skirmishes, and suddenly, bam! The broodmother makes her grand entrance.
Talk about nightmare fuel. Even the most seasoned players are freaking out at this point. We see Vetus, who I'm starting to think has a bit of a flair for the dramatic, yelling, "Holy crap, run!" in all caps.
Yeah. It's a real testament to the immersive power of games like Escalon Online. Even though these players know they're facing pixels on a screen, the combination of sound design, visual effects, and sheer anticipation, it can trigger a very real fight-or-flight response.
And fight they did, bless their souls. The logs describe a battle that's as brutal as it is chaotic. We see players like Thessalia, who, by the way, sounds like an absolute badass, pushing their healing abilities to the limit, trying to keep their comrades from becoming spider chow.
Yeah, Thessalia is a pro. But the broodmother is no pushover, though. She's described as being covered in cuts and arrow wounds, but she's still relentlessly attacking, even trampling her own offspring in her frenzy. It's a reminder that in Escalon Online, even victory comes at a cost.
And speaking of cost, poor Umbra takes another hit, proving that no good deed goes unpunished in the broodmother's lair.
Oh no, not again.
But through it all, you see this remarkable resilience in the players. They adapt, they improvise, and they support each other. Even amidst the chaos and the occasional friendly fire incident.
That's what it's all about.
Oh, right. We can't forget about Teemo's contribution to the battle. Apparently, he accidentally vomited on Cortez, who I'm assuming was not too thrilled about it.
Yeah, I don't think Cortez was too happy about that.
So, Teemo's antics aside, the players eventually prevail, bringing the broodmother down in a shower of, well, let's just say it wasn't pretty.
A hard-won victory, to be sure. But as you alluded to earlier, the real story begins in the aftermath. What happens when the adrenaline fades and the players are left to survey the literal wreckage?
This is where things get really interesting. Because the battle might be over, but the experience has changed something in the players. They're not just celebrating their victory, they're reflecting on what went wrong, what could have been done better, and what this all means for the future of Escalon Online.
It's like the old saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Right. Except in this case, it's more like, what doesn't kill you makes you write strongly worded forum posts about the need for better raid strategies.
And perhaps even more importantly, it makes them question the nature of the world they're inhabiting. This is where that mysterious blood crystal comes into play.
Oh yes, the blood crystal.
Found by newbie Mallory in the heart of the broodmother's lair. It sounds like something straight out of a dark fantasy novel.
And like any good artifact, it comes with its fair share of mystery and unsettling implications. Remember Bregor, the healer who patched up both Umbra and Brock. He had some interesting insights into the crystal's origins.
He did, didn't he? And correct me if I'm wrong, but he seemed to imply that these crystals don't just appear naturally. Someone or something is creating them, using vast amounts of...
Oh, blood. That's right. And he even hinted at the possibility of blood magic being involved.
Right.
Which opens up a whole new can of worms, wouldn't you say?
A can of worms filled with blood magic. I think I'll pass thanks. But seriously, what does this mean for the players? They've conquered the spider plague. But now they're left with this creepy artifact and the unsettling feeling that they might have stumbled onto something far more sinister.
It's a classic case of be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
They wanted a challenge. And it seems Escalon Online was all too happy to oblige. But the question is, at what cost?
We are back for the final leg of our Escalon Online deep dive.
Oh, yeah.
We've journeyed through the spider plague, witnessed epic battles and near-death experiences, and now we're left with this lingering unease.
It's like the calm after a storm, but you can still smell the ozone in the air.
Exactly. The players have vanquished the broodmother, But they've stumbled upon something far more unsettling. The blood crystal and the implication that someone or something is dabbling in some seriously dark magic.
It's a classic narrative hook. You think you've reached the end of the story, but really you've just turned the page to a whole new chapter.
And this chapter seems to be titled Blood Magic for Beginners, which, frankly, sounds a little too intense for my liking.
Well, remember Bregor's words.
Yeah.
These crystals are not naturally occurring phenomena. Someone or something is intentionally crafting them, harnessing the power of blood for their own mysterious purposes.
Which begs the question, who or what is pulling the strings in Escalon Online? Is this just a rogue player with too much time on their hands and a penchant for the macabre? Or is there something more, dare I say it, supernatural at play?
That's the million-dollar question. And it's the kind of mystery that keeps players coming back for more.
It's like that itch you can't scratch. You know you should just walk away. But the curiosity, the need to understand, it keeps you hooked.
And let's not forget the players themselves. They've faced this harrowing event together, emerged victorious, but not unscathed. The experience has changed them.
Absolutely. They're questioning the game, questioning their roles within it, and perhaps even questioning their own sense of safety within this virtual world that suddenly feels a whole lot less virtual.
Think about Umbra. He nearly died. Not once, but twice during this event. And yet he's the one pushing for better communication, for greater cooperation between players. It's as if he's seen a glimpse of something bigger, something that transcends the usual in-game rivalries and power struggles.
And it's not just him. Other players are echoing his sentiments. They're realizing that the old ways of doing things, the every player for themselves mentality, won't cut it anymore. They need to work together if they want to face whatever's coming next.
It's almost as if the spider plague and the discovery of the blood crystal has forced them to grow up, to confront the fact that even in a virtual world, actions have consequences, and the stakes can be higher than they ever imagined.
And then there's Teemo. You know, part of me wonders if even Teemo, the agent of chaos himself, has been subtly affected by all this.
It's an interesting thought. Perhaps even Teemo, beneath that layer of calculated chaos, is starting to grasp the gravity of the situation. Or maybe, just maybe, his antics are a way of coping with the unsettling realization that the game he thought he knew has taken a dark and unexpected turn.
It's like we're watching the origin story of a ragtag group of heroes. They never asked to be chosen. But fate, or in this case, the game designers, they have a funny way of intervening.
Right. And as for that blood crystal, well, it's a potent symbol, don't you think? A reminder that in Escalon Online, magic is real, and it comes at a price.
So for you listening, here's something to ponder as you venture back into the digital world. What if the games we play are more than just entertainment? What if they're reflections of our own anxieties, our fascination with the unknown, and our yearning for connection and purpose? Even if that purpose involves battling giant spiders and deciphering ancient blood magic.
The answers, like the fate of Escalon Online itself, are out there waiting to be discovered. And who knows? Maybe, just maybe, they'll teach us a thing or two about ourselves along the way.
This has been a fascinating deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
It really has. Thanks, everyone.